is because when I was diagnosed way back 12 years ago, I think I told you this story, but I'll tell it again.
Hmm. Hmm.
When the doctor sat me down, and I was in the middle of a major flare up at the time in a lot of pain, and she basically told me, she said, okay, you work out a lot, don't you?
Hmm.
And I said, uh, well, why is that germane to the situation? I thought maybe that was what was causing my problem. He says, no, just answer the question. You work out a lot, don't you? I said, yes. And I told her what I did and everything else. I says, okay, you have multiple sclerosis. All the tests indicate that's what you've got. And quite frankly, with the number of lesions you have in your brain, your cervical spine, your thoracic spine, and your lumbar spine, you should not even be walking.
Yeah.
I said,
Wow.
okay, what did that do? Threw my hands up. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Okay, it says it's being recorded, and I'm going to
Very
press
late.
okay. All right. All right.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Sarah. How are you? I'm telling you. Okay. Like I said, what I told you is I'm going to summarize a little background about me. I'm currently turning 70 in about 4 weeks. And basically, I've been retired since 2020. Um, 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It was during my last job that I was working at a large software company down in Atlanta, Georgia, and a very high stress environment, but that's germane to the situation. I have what's called relaxing remitting RMS from that standpoint, which means that my body basically will tell me I have I'm tremendous number of lesions in my brain and in my thoracic, cervical, and lumbar spines. If I could say it, I will. And basically, it prevents me from doing just about everything that I used to be able to do. I was always a person who worked out a lot all the way through my life. A big guy and tended to be a little overweight from a standpoint. I'm about 6'2" right now, weigh about 215. My normal weight would have been probably in the low 230s and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so one day, as I said, I was and did the working out I did at the time was in a local fitness club, which eventually became an LA Fitness up in down in Cumming, Georgia. And a friend of mine who was in there dared me one time to say, you should do this because I think because they watched me struggle and everything else, and they had to be very careful. I got banned on several treadmills and stuff, and I had to be very careful about what I did. So she dared me,
Dared you
and she just
to
dared me to do
spin.
spin,
To do spin. Yep.
to do spin.
Yeah.
So I did it, and so managed to get through it the first time, and which is why I'm very because the memories are so fresh. I don't have any problem with anybody having a problem with doing spin to begin with because the
Hmm.
memories are still very fresh about what it was like for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I took to it. But again, the people have also took to me as well. The instructors that I had, another Sara that I know,
Hmm.
and Ashley, the Black Widow, I called her. She was one of my spin instructors. They knew about my condition, so they kept an eye on me to make sure that I didn't hurt myself. And
Hmm.
I just can't, and it basically got to the point where that was the thing that I found gave me the most with giving me the least amount of discomfort after I was done.
Hmm.
And I went and started. I went to the YMCA. Now, of course, what happened as I was down in Georgia, I started developing my own routines on the spin bike, and whenever I couldn't make lessons, I'd just go do my own routines. And so when I came up here, I started doing the same thing. And so finally, one day in an LA Fitness, while I was doing my own routine, and of course, I played it out loud. I didn't play it through
Oh
headphones.
yeah.
I don't like to work out with
Oh
headphones.
yeah. That little
I don't,
speaker on
I
top
don't,
of that. Yep.
yeah, I don't know why. I just don't really care to work through headphones.
Hmm.
And so, and finally, somebody who was listening, who was doing this, and I don't listen to them too loud, but I listen to them loud enough where it can be heard.
Yep.
And then the person who was in there next to me said, you ought to be an instructor with the stuff you're doing. And I just, similar to being dared to do it to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think it was probably fairly close. So then the idea began to stick and coalesce, stuff like that. And right around that time is when I came across you. I think you were in it.
Yeah.
Either you were an instructor there at LA Fitness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I bothered you, and we began to talk and everything else. Well, like I said, you can tell by my demeanor, I'm a social wallflower. I don't like talking to people. I don't like interacting. I'm just very closed and stuff like that. Of course, I'm being sarcastic, but and so we began to talk about it, and you and I became friends. And as I said before, I enjoy being around intelligent people, mainly not because I happen to believe that I'm all that intelligent, but for the most part, they have a tendency, in some cases, depending on where they are, is that they basically, they can make you see things that you may not necessarily see otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the conversations that we had began to speak about that a little bit. And, I even think one time you even listened to a little bit of one of my routines and you said,
Everest.
yeah, well, yeah, that was that. I think we did one in LA Fitness. That was
Yeah.
right. I think we did one in LA Fitness. She said,
Couple, I think.
okay, all
Yeah.
right, all right. You need the Everett. Oh, look at that. She even remembers the title. Oh
Oh
my
yeah.
God.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
can't believe it. I asked the YMCA, as I told them what I was doing, to please bring a spin bike out of the studio and put it up in the wellness center. And
Yeah.
they were, again, they're nice people. They said, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And then I became kind of I don't want to say a running joke, but they made people smile because here I am listening to the routine and I'm calling everything out while I'm doing it
Yeah.
on the bike while I'm in there.
Yeah.
And so, they're all, and I go, and from there. And then finally, I passed the exam, and then and they said, "Sure, let's give it a shot." And so I began to do it.
So you've been now teaching for two
Uh,
years, right?
about 2 years, 3 months.
2 years, 3 months. And when you look back on those 2 years, how is it, what's changed for you? Has anything changed mentally, physically?
Well, my MS. I used to take one of the things that happened when I was down in Georgia was I used to take infusions for it. I didn't know why I was taking them, but I took them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so when I came up here, the people up here at the MS Center up here said, "Well, we've looked at your MRIs for the last couple of years, and
mm-hmm,
you're not getting any worse. I really don't see any reason for you to take them at all. It's they're not doing you anything."
mm-hmm,
So I said, "That's okay." And what's happened is, of course, my routines, as I've learned about how to, and had the people to help me instruct me as to how to be a better instructor
mm-hmm.
and how to basically do the routines that I do.
Yeah,
Um, I kind of feel like again, I feel like anything that makes me a better me is going to make them happier as well. And so, from a health standpoint, now, yeah, I'm going to be a 70-year-old in an 80-year-old body. My current diagnosis is my MS has not gotten any worse,
mm-hmm.
but now I'm having other problems. Whether or not I don't think they're MS related.
We're talking about both off the record and on.
Oh, what was that? Stop that.
Came out.
And so I'm getting, there are other things that are coming into play. My thoracic spine is deteriorating,
Mm-hmm.
and just the other things as well that now come with old age,
Mm-hmm.
from that. And that's why when I make the point that I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do it, I mean, I'll continue to do it as long as I can, but I know I can. The end is not necessarily closer than the beginning, but I can't see it lasting that much longer,
Gosh.
from that particular standpoint. But from a mental standpoint, like I said, it's one of the things that I find joy in, and it always makes me feel good when somebody is in the class and say, "Damn, that was a great class." I'm
Yeah.
like, nothing makes me feel better than that, from
Yeah.
that standpoint. And Uh,
And you've had people come to your class, a lot of active older adults too, come to your
mhm.
class now and start in the beginner class, and they see what you do, and then you kind of let them graduate from your beginner
Oh
class
yeah.
into the
Oh yeah.
next
I've
one
got I've
too.
got my I've got my I've got my star students.
Yeah,
I've got
yeah,
Pam and I've got Carol and a few
yeah,
others who just like when they first took my class, they were
yeah,
like, oh God, this hurt. I says you just it's just you got to stick with it. It's just
yeah,
it'll be
yeah.
and they've graduated to the point where like they could never stand on the bike before and they stand on the bike now and they couldn't get to the end, but now they get to the end, and
Right.
it's just great to see from that standpoint. And and as I said, I'll as long as as long as people see me as something positive, I'll continue to do it.
Yeah.
And you get to a point in your life that and now that I'm 70, I really try to focus on things that I enjoy, and I don't really waste any more time on things that I don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if I were to ever, and when I talk to people and the young people I talk to and the other people who have relatives with MS,
Mm-hmm.
and the first thing I try to tell them is you have to tell them you have to, and I know how hard it is. You have to move. You have to, God closes all those doors to you. Well, you've got to find the windows because he always leaves the window open somewhere, somehow. So, as we continue and as you continue this journey for what you're trying to do and trying to help people,
Mm-hmm.
I encourage this type of fact. The one thing that I would do if I were you, the one thing I tell people, and of course, most people that you're dealing with are unhappy with something. It doesn't make any difference what it is. I was unhappy with the fact that my health was deteriorating in such a way that I couldn't seem to stop it,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't really know what to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I finally have told people is the first thing you have to do is you can't focus on what is happening to you at the present. You have to basically sit around, and the first thing you have to find is what things are you grateful for? Where is your gratitude?
That's right. Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't like to do that because it will force them to understand that you know personal responsibility is something that people don't seem to take a lot of anymore about doing certain things, whether it's be good or bad. But when you finally start to find the gratitude that you have for things, you'll really start to find that you're not going to be able to help yourself just saying, damn, I got it better than I thought. And I know there's a lot of people out there
Yeah.
that have trouble, that have problems and everything else. And I feel for them. I said, but you're not going to get things to change until basically, what is it? What's the old joke? You need to check up from the neck up,
Yeah.
from the standpoint of you're going to have to understand, take responsibility for whatever decisions you've made and have the gratitude. Who am I grateful for? Oh God, we could sit here and talk for a half an hour for everybody I'm gratitude for,
Yeah.
and we haven't got a half an hour because I'm not going to waste that much tape.
Oh.
But I mean, that's the thing is search for those things. If you don't know, think about it a while. Think
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
from that particular standpoint. So
Yeah.
someone, if somebody sees this and what they're trying to do is they sometimes are, you just sit there and, you just try something and, say, well, I don't want to do that because I'm going to fail. And I look at them and say, so, I mean, what's the problem? I don't get it.
Yeah.
You don't try something just because you might not be, you might fail at it. You don't try something, and that's what I always encourage all the young people to do. And everything else is, find what you love, find what you do well,
Yeah.
and gravitate to it and do all those things, and find those things you're grateful for,
Yeah.
and live
Yeah.
that good life.
Well, I am so grateful for you, and I think your class is amazing, and I'm excited to come back for your harder the harder class.
Oh, you're going to come back. You're going to come back for the real deal, are we?
Right. I will
Oh,
be
okay.
there. Sounds good.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you, Bill. Appreciate you.
Oh, no problem.